This is an analysis of the London gang network. This gang was located in London, and it operated in a housing estate from 2005 to around 2009. I chose to analyze this network because I recently saw an episode of Peaky and thought London was pretty interesting after that. Here's what we already know about the gang. It has 54 nodes, which are people or gang members. It's an undirected network. It's a one-mode matrix, which means I have data linking members to each other and the attributes of each member in another data set. The data for this network came from anonymized police arrests of confirmed gang members, which means there were probably a lot more than 54 members. There are 4 types of links in this data set. The first type is when 2 gang members hang out together. For example, Alfie and Oliver go and have tea together. The second type of link is when 2 gang members co-offend together, like Alfie and Harvey robbing someone. The third type of link is when 2 gang members do a serious crime together, like Alfie and Frankie killing someone. The fourth type of link is when they do any of the previous type of links, but they're also related. So what do I want to find in this network? Well, first I want to find how the chain of command works. Who's the leader, who follows them, who gives out the orders, and so on. The second thing I want to figure out is if hanging out with certain gang members got you arrested more. So if hanging out with gang member number 15 got you arrested more than hanging out with gang member number 10. Now let's look at what I found. What I found was I was actually able to determine how the chain of command worked from their leader. First, I did an analysis of the centralities of all the nodes, which included in degree, closeness, and betweenness. In degree is how many links are incoming to the node. Closeness is just how close the node is to all the other nodes in comparison. And betweenness is how data is going through them to reach other nodes. Here I show the top 5 results for each of these analyses. As you can see, there are a couple nodes that appear multiple times, like node 14, 23, and number 1. You may think that these nodes with the higher centralities are the leaders or the top dogs of this gang, but this isn't the case. In the bottom right, I'm showing the node with the smallest centrality, which turns out to actually be the leader. This quick table just shows the rankings of the nodes that were in the previous table that appeared multiple times, and it shows how the nodes with the higher centralities turned out to be the lower ranking, and the node with the lower centrality was the leader. What this tells me is that the leader would pass on the command down to the next person in charge, and they would spread the word, and all the lower rankings would interact with the other lower ranking nodes in order to do the mission they were given or get the job done. Next, I did a cap test on the arrests of each node of the gang. This would help determine or show if there's any correlation between the nodes and who they hang out with and the number of arrests they have. A good correlation would have a p-value of 0.05, and as you can see here with the numbers highlighted by the red circle, they're not that close to 0.05, but they're not so far that the correlation is completely non-existent. This means that there's somewhat of a correlation, like some nodes do affect the other nodes in getting arrested, but most of the time they don't. Here I made a visualization of the network using Gephi. The links between the nodes are color-coded based on birthplace. I chose this because it helps show how a couple nodes interact with a lot of people from the same birthplace. This probably means that they're the connector between the leader and all the people in that certain area. The nodes are also color-coded to show their in degree, with white being very low in degree and dark green being very high in degree. You can also see that there's a single node in the top right that's all by himself. This is just a node that was a confirmed gang member, but he didn't have any links to any other confirmed gang members. The nodes with a lot of connections also still look like leaders, but as we saw before, this is not the case. In conclusion, I found that the leader did not interact with a lot of the members, but instead interacted with very few who would pass the command down, and the command would go all the way down to the lower rankings, and they would interact with each other to figure out how to accomplish what they were sent to do. With the idea of getting each other arrested, it seems like there may have been a couple nodes that affected the people around them, but most of the time it seemed like hanging out with a certain node would not get you arrested.